If you don't heal what hurt you, you'll bleed on the people who didn't cut you. That's an unknown quote. Maybe you've heard it before. It circulates around a lot. And it's so true, right? We think, well, we've gotten out of that toxic or dysfunctional relationship, right? So I'm okay. I made it out. Thank God for that. But what we find is if we don't understand exactly how we have been impacted by that toxic or dysfunctional relationship, and believe me, you have been impacted. If you don't gain awareness into that impact, you will go into the next relationship or any relationship at all with anybody else, and you will continue to repeat these toxic, dysfunctional patterns over and over again because you don't realize the level of hurt that has been impacted. Now, look, I know you are here. You're a strong person. You're an independent person. You know how to be successful in life. So even like thinking in a victim mentality is like not okay for you. I get it. I understand. But I want you to know that the first step in actually healing is understanding how you've been victimized or impacted by a toxic or dysfunctional person. And like I said, we think we get out of it and we're like, thank God that's done. But because you've been a victim in somebody else's internal war, you are left with shrapnel, very specific shrapnel that comes to you by way of toxic and dysfunctional people. And I'm going to break it down for you. Amen. Because it's so empowering. Once you know exactly how you've been impacted by this and how that shrapnel is stuck within you, you can work with me to systematically remove it. I'm like a psychological surgeon. I get in there, see that impact, cut it out so that you can have the life in relationships you truly want. Mutually beneficial relationships. How about that? How about where you're not the one pouring all the energy in and somebody's sucking it all out from you? Relationships where somebody comes and pours into you and adds value into your life, and it's not so one-sided. Relationships where you don't have to scratch your head wondering how they feel about you from one minute to the next because they play emotional games with your heart. A relationship where you know that you're valued and treasured and chosen, amen, and you don't have to wonder if they're going to finally pick you fucking someday. Sorry, I just had to throw an F-bomb in there because I mean what I'm saying to you. You really deserve not to be wondering how someone feels about you on a daily basis through their behavior, right? One minute they love you, the next minute you're not sure. It's a lot, right? And if you've been in a relationship like that, the impact is absolutely tremendous, the impact that has on you. So welcome to Healthy Relationships with Heidi Rain. I am so glad that you're here. We're going to dive into that shrapnel today. And by the way, whatever platform you're on, if you would please leave a like or a comment, it helps us help more people. So I just want to encourage you to participate in this discussion. Today, we are going to talk about the very specific wound that a toxic and dysfunctional relationship leaves on you, the shrapnel, the emotional and psychological shrapnel that's left behind in you. And that is in the specific area of identity. Your identity, the identity crisis that comes from being in a relationship with somebody who's sick mentally or emotionally and who's hurting you on a regular basis. Now, what do I mean by an identity crisis? I mean just that. You don't know who the hell you are because you have been whoever you've needed to be inside of this toxic, dysfunctional relationship in order to function in the dysfunction. So you look around, whether this is a childhood dynamic that you grew up into this dysfunction, or you married it or dated it or down the road partnered up with it somehow. And now you say, who do I need to be okay inside of this relationship? You survey the land and you make a decision to be who you need to be instead of who you really are, especially if you grew up in a dynamic or you're in a toxic dynamic where people tell you that being you isn't good enough. And that is the root lie that you get fed, that you eat up and swallow. You internalize that wounding and then it becomes a part of who you are. And you lose yourself. You lose yourself in a toxic and dysfunctional relationship, hustling and scrambling. So what are these identities that we take on? Well, many of us take on identities of being a pleaser, and we become like a chameleon almost. I'm just going to be we're always asking ourselves in these toxic and dysfunctional relationships, well, how should I be behaving right now? What should I say right now? How should I react right now? How should I be holding myself right now? How should I be feeling right now? It's like the question of what's normal, what's not normal based upon that other person. And then what happens? You're being everything else except who you are. You're being everything else Accept what comes naturally and authentically to you, because let's be real, if authentic to you, for example, if your identity, authentic to you, is to be a very sensitive person and to get your feelings hurt easily, or to, really be impacted by somebody else's behavior, a natural byproduct of that, if you're being really yourself, is to go, ouch, man, that's hurtful. Ow, you just hurt my feelings. But when you're running a filter, you go, well, if I say that to them, how are they going to take it? Is that going to make it worse? If I show them that I'm hurting, are they going to use it against me? Are they going to come back and use that information as intel to hurt me later on? You're constantly running. I used to call this with one of my clients the psychological shredder. It's like who you are gets filtered up through the psychological shredder, and you ask yourself, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? And 9 times out of 10, it's this crazy making machine that never has a right answer, because one day you could do something with a toxic person and have it be all right. And you know damn well the next day you could do something and you could be severely mistaken. It could be the worst decision you ever made. So it's like you never know what you're going to get with that person. And so you're walking on a lot of eggshells. And what do you get when you walk on eggshells all the time is there's no authenticity to be had. You're so careful. You can't just walk through life as who you really are. You've got to step and look and strategize and all of this. So we have an identity crisis. A lot of people get out of a toxic and dysfunctional relationship. So many of my students, so many of my clients look around and go, I don't know who the hell I am, Heidi. I don't know who I am. Heidi, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want. And I say, I know. Join the club. It makes perfect sense. And how would you? How would you know what you want and what you need and what you think and what you really believe when you've had to think, believe, and feel what you've been told to think, believe, and feel, or what would keep you safe or happy in a relationship is what you needed to think, feel, and behave. So it's kind of like, coming out of a toxic or dysfunctional relationship is kind of like coming out of a cult. When you're in one, you don't know you're in one because you're just like, you think it's normal. And then when you get out, you start to go, holy shit, man. Wow. You start to look around at the impact, and you start to look at the way that you were programmed and gaslit, and the things that you were taught to believe and think and feel that really don't line up with what you think and feel and believe. When you're in crisis mode, by the way, we don't have the luxury of really playing around with who we are and exploring ourselves because we're so busy just trying to stay fucking okay. Is this true or not, right? When you're in a really unhealthy relationship, you're so worried about just being okay. You don't have time to fuck around with your likes and what you want to be doing with your life. You're like, are we going to be okay today? Is this person going to use drugs or drink or go off the rails? Are they going to say that mean, hurtful thing? Or are they going to break up with me today? Are they going to leave me today? Back and forth. And look, and I'm not saying that it's like you're hopeless and helpless. But believe me, I know I'm painting a picture here, but I want you to understand, I already know you're a really strong person. I already know you're successful in your life. I already know you've accomplished a lot of shit in your life. I already know you're amazing and talented. And I'm not placating. I'm dead serious. You are an amazing freaking human being. And I also know your relationships suck. I'm just being real with you, okay? Because love doesn't translate into success. Like success has steps. We can follow those. There's a formula for success. We understand how to do success. We can make money. We can understand how to do those things if we follow the formula. Love and relationships is the one area where all of our shit shows up. Okay? Because there isn't a formula with a toxic or dysfunctional person. The formula is get out. The formula is don't engage. But we don't know how to do that because the root lie that we're hanging on to is I'm not enough, right? That's the root lie that keeps us stuck. I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. I've got to stay in. Nobody else is going to be there. There's a root lie deep within, and intellectually that lie isn't true. And you could go to work and you could run a company and you could be an entrepreneur and you could make money and you could know your value in dollars, but in hugs and love and praise and approval, you don't know shit. Because it doesn't translate. Okay? You smell what I'm stepping in? Am I singing your song? Why is it so important that we get this real with ourselves? Because if we continue to dilute the situation and be delusional and think that we're okay, we got out, we escaped, we're going to bleed, on the person who didn't cut us. We're going to get into the next relationship and we're still not going to know who we really are. We're just going to get into this next situation and still wait for somebody else to define us intimately of who we are. We don't know what we like intimately. We don't know our own sexual preferences and desires because we're placating into somebody else's. We don't know our true desires of things we love to do and what lights us up in our own pleasure because we're putting on a show for the people when we're in a relationship with, instead of being authentic in our own bodies and feeling our own pleasure and really going there. There's a fear around all of that when we have an identity crisis. Well, how am I supposed to act in bed? Who am I supposed to be as a lover to you versus how am I? Who am I as a lover? Who am I as a friend? Who am I as a partner? I want to encourage you that if any of this is ringing a bell with you, that you take the next step, because awareness is just the first one. Awareness is just the first step. It's like, okay, good. And I know you're here. And if you're new here and you're in the fire hose, one of two things are either happening. You're either going, fucking love this woman. She's telling me the truth about things that I see. I love it. I'm willing to see that truth. Or you're the other type of person where you hate me. You're like, no, I don't want to hear that. And that's okay. But if you've made it this far, you're the first one. So I know that you appreciate the truth, and you can only know the truth to your level of understanding of that truth. And I've spent 20 years unraveling and understanding codependency and toxic relationship recovery so that I know that truth so fucking well about how you've been impacted and how it's hurting you. Now you're going to tell me other ways and your unique experience of ways it's impacted you once we get working together, and we're going to go even deeper and even further. And that's very exciting. So if you're one of those people that when you hear the truth, it sounds good to you, might sting a little, but you like that, you enjoy that, then I encourage you to go the whole way with me and go the next step. Go over to HeidiRain.com and check out the program that we have, Toxic Relationship Recovery, so that you can see if we're a good match, or if you're a private kind of VIP person, okay, and a lot of people that I work with are, we can talk about how that can work with you too if you want to be personally guided, personally directed through this experience by me every single step of the way. And in the group program, you're with me too, but some people just want that extra kind of support. All right. So identity crisis. Who are you? Now I have a free gift for you. If you want to know how to know who you are is to first figure out who you're not. That's how we do it. And you've got to figure out who you've been to figure out who you're not. So go over to HeidiRain.com and scroll down a little bit, and you will see on there my book, Attachment Personality Patterns, Understanding Your Unique Codependency Programming. And that has the 8 different personality patterns we run, the identities we take on to survive, thrive, connect, or cope in a dysfunctional or toxic dynamic. And then you can identify, there's 5 criteria that will be underneath each one that will help you identify. And you can come to me and set up your consultation and go, hey, I'm a fixer, I'm a pleaser, I'm a withholder, I'm a controller, I'm a perfectionist. And you know how you've been playing the game of life and relationships, and you've been set up to lose. And then I can help you relearn the game so that you're set up to win for the rest of your life. All right. I love you so much. Take excellent care of yourself. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, help us help more people. And as always, take excellent care of yourself and love yourself first. See you soon. Bye-bye, my friend.